All right, welcome back to Kanell and Bell on this Friday as we move to the NBA. So, Raja, yesterday after the show, I go home, I get some lunch. I'm sitting there, I flip it on First Take, and I'm watching Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman sit down with Kevin Durant. So I was like, all right, let me see this. This thing was much hyped interview. I'm like, let's see what I get out of Kevin Durant. And Kevin Durant has been a player that I'll say I love, hate. I don't know, that's a little strong word. It's not like I hate him, but I get annoyed by some of the things he does. I think he's a little too sensitive. I don't know if he has his priorities straight. So I look at him, I'm just like, there's this. Last year, him saying, I want to go in the finals, I want to try to win a championship, I love that move. So I was like, all right, I'm all in. He didn't blame anybody on the Warriors staff. He didn't blame the doctors. He didn't blame the coaches. He said, no, that was on me. I wanted to try to help my players, my guys win a championship, so I wanted to play. So I was starting to turn the corner. It took a major setback yesterday because I watched him out there, and he just comes across as unlikable for whatever reason. I don't know if he has this thing with Stephen A. They've had a beef where he was just a little aloof, didn't want to really open up. But there were a couple things I want to see if they bothered you as much as they bothered me. So obviously he goes to Brooklyn, leaves Golden State, could have stayed there, but he decides to go to the Brooklyn Nets instead. So he was asked as some of the reasons why he went to Brooklyn. And he gave some of them, hey, I wanted to try a new thing. I wanted to try to win there. But he also did admit that his little dust-up with Draymond Green was a part of the problem. He said, quote, yeah, you talk to your teammate. Your teammate talked to you that way. You think about it a bit. Like I said, we talked about it, but definitely, for sure, I'm not going to lie about it. To me, you got to grow up and put your big boy pants on. You're going to be that sensitive where Draymond gets after you because of a game situation. And first of all, Draymond had to be suspended. That definitely came from Kevin Durant, who had his feelings hurt. But then you're going to let that be the reason or one of the reasons you leave town? I don't know, that's just soft to me. You got to get some thicker skin.
I thought it was refreshing that he actually admitted to that being part of the reason he left town. What Draymond was calling him, I think kind of Kevin Durant has read forever and listened to people question his toughness and how thick his skin is. And so what he was called by Draymond was really, really hurtful to him because essentially you're echoing what everyone's saying about him, right? Is that he ain't tough. You're not built like that. And so I think that was one of those things that you can't take back, Danny. You know what I mean? You get in an argument with somebody, and it's a superficial argument. You guys say things. Everybody can bury the hatchet, right? You didn't say anything that really crossed the line. I think calling Kevin Durant that, because of the questions that people have had about Kevin Durant, was a line-crossing situation. And Kevin Durant was never going to be able to get over that. I also believe that it had more to do with why they got into the argument than what he was called by Draymond. Even though it was one of those things that you've done irreparable damage. The fact that Kevin Durant deems himself as the best player on the planet and clearly the best player on that Warriors team, and you're in a game with 10 seconds left on the clock, and Kevin Durant is standing right next to Draymond Green asking for the ball, and Draymond Green basically waves him off and decides it's his to take down the court and lose the ball in the process, I think speaks more to why Kevin Durant left, right? You're supposed to give me that ball. There's got to be a pecking order here. And I think he felt at that moment, no matter what I do in Golden State, these cats are going to see it as theirs. I'm not the guy. They bring me in as the guy, but I'm the mercenary guy, right? I'm never going to be a part of that big three. When they really need me, they'll give me the ball. But, man, I'm never going to have ownership of this. Because in that situation, Danny, if you're the guy, do you know what Draymond does with that ball? He flips that thing to you and he says, let's go. And so I think it was, I don't know that they touched on that side of it in the interview, but I think it was the combination of those two things in that game. And in that moment, he realized this probably isn't going to be the long-term situation for me.
Definitely. And it's one of those things, Draymond might not be the easiest guy to play with either. That could be a very real situation. But I just think if you would have stepped, I think it still could have worked if Kevin Durant would have.
You know what he should have done, Danny? He should have whooped his ass.
Exactly.
That's what he should have done. If you had a beef with him calling you a B, whoop his ass.
Yeah, I agree. Or at least attempt to, because they're going to get breaking up, but you have to stand up for yourself in those situations. That's where I wonder if Kevin Durant, some of the stuff about him being a little bit softer is actually true. Because maybe Draymond was trying to get him to step up, and by calling him that, usually are ready for a reaction.
Draymond wasn't trying to get him to step up. Draymond really believes he's And to
well,
the
then
point,
you need to change that narrative because I guarantee you a lot of guys look at him like that, don't you think?
no, and that's why it hurt him to the core because like deep down maybe I don't know. Look, I don't know Kevin Durant like that. You understand what I'm saying? But
right.
I think that's why maybe there's some insecurities on his part about that, and that's why when Draymond called him that, it's like one of the one things you couldn't probably say to him and have him forgive you. Once you said that and you called him multiple times and you could see him as DeMarcus Cousins is trying to like restrain Draymond. You can see DeMarcus Cousins saying Draymond saying to DeMarcus Cousins like and I think the insecurities there are like so deep with Kevin Durant that you are never going to be able to walk that back.
Right, for sure. And obviously that was a big reason. He admitted to it, said that's why one of the reasons I left Golden State. So then the questions move on to like, all right, why did you choose the Nets? And he was asked about winning championships. He would not say that his goal was to win a championship. And they peppered him. They were trying to get him to say, hey, to add to your legacy. And he's like, I don't care about all that stuff. He's like, I just go to work every day. His quote was, I've told you what my name is and who I am before. You've seen what I've done. I don't have to prove that I can win the way you want me to. My job is to perfect my craft. That's what I do every single day with or without championships. He would not admit that his goal is to win a championship. Now, he just said, I'm going to work. I go to work just like everybody else in the country. I go to work every day. If we win, that's okay. But if not, that's okay. Do you have a problem at all with that mindset?
I don't have a problem with the mindset purely. I do have a problem. I mean, you're being. I don't know that you're being, forthright. I don't think you're being 100% truthful in that. Your goal is to win a championship like that. So the fact that you weren't truthful it bothers me a little bit. Plenty of people aren't truthful though, so it's not a big deal. Here's the way I see it, Danny. I think in his mindset, he's like, and I could be wrong. There's a lot of pressure attached to winning a championship, right? So if I view it through the prism of like, I've got to win this championship, that pressure starts to mount. If I take it and break it down and say, hey, if I am the best Kevin Durant that I can be, and I perfect my craft as Kevin Durant, I will be good enough to win a championship, if that makes sense, right? So let me not be in a quest for a championship. Let me be on a quest to be the best player that I can be. I can control that. Ultimately, I don't control all the time the factors that determine winning a championship. I couldn't control, tearing my Achilles. I couldn't control Klay Thompson's injuries, like all of that beyond my control. So if I put my eggs in that basket and all my energy in that basket, I could fall short. While if I put him in the Kevin Durant basket, being the best Kevin Durant I can be, and things go well on the other side, I can't control him anyway, we wind up winning a championship. So I want to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that I don't hate it because, you could be the best player on the planet. If management doesn't do their job and get you the pieces they need, then you ain't winning a championship anyway. Again, you don't control that. So control being the best Kevin Durant you can be, perfecting the craft. And if that's good enough and everything else falls into place around that, it wins a championship. I don't have a problem with him viewing it like that if that's what he was saying.
Yeah, the only thing I have a problem with is what's wrong with saying I want to win championships. It was almost like he didn't want to give in to the questions and just say it. So he's like, look, I'm just going to work. And it wasn't like, I feel like every player in the NBA should want to play on a team that competes for a championship. Even if you really know you don't have a spot, like that should be your career goal maybe is to, hey, one day play for a championship. I know not everybody gets that, and that's okay. But I just feel like if you're a Brooklyn Nets fan, and I think if you watch that video, you're like, wait a second, that's not his priority, is to win a championship. And from a PR standpoint, I think Kevin Durant would have been better if he would have said, yes, obviously I want to win a championship. But he wouldn't even say that. He's like, nope. He's like, I'm just going to be me. I can only control what I can do, which is true. And you want him to be the best player. And if he is the best player and he comes back, then they'll probably be in that mix. But his refusal to admit it was just weird, because if you listen to Kobe, if you listen to Michael, if you listen to LeBron, if you listen to any like historically great players, which I would put Kevin Durant in that category, they'd be like, yeah, why else do I play? It just, the way he came across was more, I've made my money. Like, and this is kind of the attitude that was irritating me. He's like, I've made my money. I've already got my championship. So I'm just going to go to work every day with my lunch pail. And like, that's okay. But to a Brooklyn Nets fan, I bet they're like, well, what are we doing here? I don't know. It's just one of those things that was just a little bit irritating. It's probably not that big of a deal. We probably overanalyze everything.
With KD, they were kind of, part of what they were prodding him on was, do you think because when you went to the Warriors, they were so great, they didn't need you to win? did you go to Brooklyn to try to prove to people that you could take this team to a championship? And that was part of where he was saying the quote where he said, I don't need to prove to you that I can win your way. So maybe that's why he was getting a little defensive, like, I don't have to prove anything to you, but still, he wouldn't, you're right, he wouldn't talk about winning a championship, but they were asking him, like, did you go there to try to prove to people that you can do this on your own?
You know,
right. They were definitely trying to bait him.
I do appreciate, like, you know, it can be frustrating even for me at times, Danny, like the new culture of the NBA at times, like not specifically this Kevin Durant thing, but just, you know, like guys are buddy, like, you know, like everybody knows each other. There's only one guy in the league that really hates everybody else that's not on his team, Russell Westbrook. Everybody else is kind of cool with each other. Like, old guys like me can hate that sometimes. But I do appreciate these guys' willingness to stand up and be like, I don't care what, like, the media or anybody else says I need to act like, or what needs to be important to me, or what I need to put stock in. I don't view it like that, and I'm not going to act like I do because you say I need to, if that makes sense. Do you know? I appreciate that. I don't always agree with the way they view things or the sentiments that they have, but I do appreciate their willingness to push back. And, you know, he went on the first take, and if he didn't feel like that was a fair question to him, because the whole narrative around his championships in Golden State was that he took the easy way out with them, and in his mind, he doesn't have to prove to anyone that he can win championships. I support that. I don't think that he does. Like, he's clearly one of the top 3 players on the planet when he's healthy. I mean, we can debate who's number 1, but you know what else? What do you need to prove to them? And saying that to someone like, look, I don't have to be what you want me to be when you want me to be it. You know, maybe it's because I'm always looking to be in some sort of, like, you know, altercation or something, but I'm cool with it. I appreciate that.